Hey, you, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Midnight Madness Chats with Hardman. I've got a great artist on the air tonight. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hello, Hardy. Hello, everyone, and everyone listening to Midnight Madness Radio and TV. I'm Garry Mc Cluskey. My stage name is Gaz, and I've been a South African music artist for some years now, going back into the mid '90s. I took a long sabbatical from about 2000 and just over 20 years until I got the bite to start constructing, writing music again. So 4 years now back into it, and just completing my first solo album.
So that's very interesting because I also took a sabbatical from music. I think music at some point it became so difficult to just keep going. You know, your instruments cost a fortune, all your gear and all the equipment that you use cost a fortune, and then you go play gigs for money that's not even 1% worth of everything you had to take to these events. So tell me about your sabbatical. What were you doing during that time? What got you back into music? Tell me about that.
So I left in '98. I moved over to the UK just to see what my homeland was like, and I can confirm it's just bloody rainy and full of drunks and drug addicts. No, I joke. Yeah, I took a corporate life, Hardy, and I went over to the UK, and my wife and I decided that if we're going to have a youngster, maybe South Africa's still got something left in it. And we've been here ever since 2003. So I've just carried on with the corporate life. I've started a business. I'm in a marketing company, and the itch hit in the lockdown with a lot of people. I think we just all detached ourselves, as you say, from music earlier, and they just got on with trying to earn an income because I didn't know if the music was going to bring it, and yeah, those lockdown nights and live music gigs for tips the guys were doing was quite inspiring for me. I thought, geez, if these guys can get up there and behind a flipping cell phone in their garages and sheds and living rooms to try and earn a buck, then for goodness sake, then why can't I just start writing again? And that was actually the moment. And I started putting pen to paper, and I approached Mark Beling, who's taken us from track one all the way through to this new 10-track album. Yeah.
So I've got a very similar story. I don't know if you're familiar with Jared Gunston from Chromium, but
Not.
he was the guy that basically got me out of my sabbatical because he was just like, if you've got music, bring it. It's lockdown. We're sitting at home. We're not allowed to go anywhere. We're not allowed to do anything. So get back into it. Let's talk about Mark Beling, obviously from Mean Mr. Mustard, great
That's right.
producer, great studio engineer.
Mm.
Tell me what it's like working with him. What's he like in studio? How much involved is he in the music? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I've known Mark for some years. Our boys played football together when they were juniors. So I've always known about Mark, and I've always been closest to him. And I approached him with this song, and I said, "Listen, let's just collaborate. Let's maybe just pull in there." And it was Friday afternoon, 2:00, one afternoon, and he was getting ready for his lockdown gig for about 6, and we knocked out this one first track called "She Play Me" inside 3 hours. So to answer your question, and it's been like that every single time, just about, with Mark and I. It's very seamless connection, if I could put it that way. Very, very easy man to work with in the studio. He is so forgiving, if I could put it that way. And really reinforcing. So you step back into music, you worry whether you've got it. You've worried whether how you're going to sound. You worry about how people are going to accept what this is after so long that gets put out. But he's just soft, reassuring man, and he's just his character just endears everyone, and he'll tell you when it's not right in a very soft way, and he'll just say, you can do better, Gazelle, you can do this, or let's try that. So he's a very very easy, gentle man to work with.
Can you tell me about the inspiration behind My New Skin?
The inspiration of My New Skin as both a title track and an album comes from this, having let go of my past music life and just the people we've become, I think, since 2020. It's made a lot of us really think. It's made a lot of us adapt. We've had to let go of things. I think we've all lost things. We've all gained certain things, and it's this evolution. It's the shedding of an old skin to become a new person through the course of making this album. So I thought the one track was quite poignant. That I thought, no, but this is it. This is what it's about. It's about going through these phases of discovery within this album and different sounds. And there's a lot of self-reflection that goes into it. When you're putting out very honest lyrics and music is what I call it. So I think and I hope that the listeners will read through that, or at least hear that when they listen to it. So that's how it came about. My New Skin is about my creative journey, my shedding of maybe something that I wasn't, and then just opening up and shedding new layers and just becoming more and more what I wanted to be doing.
So saying that it's sort of you shed your skin and you are this new reformed musician. Can
Mm,
you tell me
mm.
about the evolution of your music from like your previous days, from like Crush and all the way your
Yeah.
previous albums, all the way to this point?
So there's a major evolution, to be honest. I mean, the fun days of Crush, I would call it, when we were recording at home with cats and dogs shouting in the background and running off to Barney Simon with our CDs and that. We're just having a lot of fun creating Format, four-piece band, your usual static four-piece. A lot of fun, a lot of freedom to create. We were really in the alternative rock space back then. We sort of followed the Barney Simons around and played the Battle of the Bands. And yeah, and we were getting up with the New Girls, and we were getting up with Squeal and Arapaho and all these great old bands doing gigs. And then, of course, I dropped the bomb and I said, boys, I'm just going to try the UK. So that kind of put an end to it. Walking in with Mark, I think we started on a bit of a poppy rock kind of footing when I walked in there. And then although some of these tracks make the album, some don't. They just certainly don't, and they don't work for the overall collection of music. So some of them have been bumped. But as the more and more we got together, the more we wrote, the more we found each other. So this evolution, it started becoming a lot more rocky, a lot more, can I say, padded out with a lot more feeling, dark moments. And I really think that's where we started hitting the spot, So the evolution's in the album itself, but it's actually in the album track 1 to 10. It goes back to front because the later tracks are some of the earlier stuff, and the more rocky and heavier stuff is in the beginning. So you're going to hear 5 sort of tracks of more rock, and then it's going to lighten up into more melodics and different messages.
Talking about the evolution of the tracks, and you have some heavier tracks, and then you have some more lighter tracks at the end of the album, like you mentioned. What was the challenges you had while you were recording this album?
Multiple, in a way. Sometimes it's hard to write. Sometimes it flows. Sometimes I don't believe in what I've written and I start rewriting. Not so much in the recording process, and I think I've said that earlier. The recording process is generally quite seamless, but the things that have helped me back but inspired me as well is one of the tracks is about losing my dad. That slowed me down, really made me think about things, but it just made me put a lot of energy back into it. Last year, my wife was diagnosed with a breast disease that she's luckily overcome. So it's these moments where you're forced to slow down and make sure that life and family are all right first before you continue with this, can I call it, a very selfish mission that one gets on when you start getting deep into these tracks and trying to put them out. So life happens, I think, is the answer. And it's bound to happen over the course of 4 years, which it's taken to do this. I'm a full-time working guy, so every couple of months I've been going in. So that's held it back, and I'd say that's why it's a slow release of an album.
You said something now that is the truth. I think it's a very selfish industry. As a musician that's trying to make it out there myself, and it's hard work and stuff, and you sort of, so we I've got a little daughter, but she's living with her mother, and so I've got a little bit more freedom to do the shows and the stuff like that. But now my current
Mm.
wife is always traveling with us all over the place, and sometimes she says, I've got better things to do with my life than being dragged all over the place, going to all these shows and things. And the thing is, it's such a demanding industry because the moment you stop moving, the moment you pull back and say, I need a break, I need to get this. When you come back into it, it's like you took 5 steps back, and then you just have to sort
Yeah.
of run again with it. So tell me about that. Tell me about the impact it had on your life, your work career, your wife, your kids, and so forth.
I must say I've got a very supportive family. There were definitely moments where it was interrupting things, because I was sitting listening to tracks or writing or reviewing stuff over and over 100 times as we do before we go back into the studio for second sessions. And you get in that moment where you have to be in the moment, or the inspiration is lost, or the concentration it takes to put into these tracks. So you kind of divide yourself. I've always been very hardworking in the business, and it's never truly affected me. Um, so from that side, business, in my normal life continues. My son is very supportive of what I do. In fact, he helps me chucking out TikToks and trying to help promote and whatever else. But it is a huge distraction, there's no doubt, because everything I do, I've done myself to a degree. I've written the songs, I've taken all the melodies and such to Mark. I know he produces them and he does the music, and then you're promoting yourself. Then you're working with an online disty. Then you're listening to master tracks. Then you're listening to half-cooked stuff, and it's this incessant kind of rolling ball that if you stop, it doesn't happen. And that nearly happened. At track 6 or so, I was like, okay, whatever. I've got an EP here. Maybe that's enough. Let's just get back on the scene with an EP. But at the same time, I had so much content left in me, I couldn't stop. I thought I'm going to waste this if I kind of stop now. And so continues, and so the interruption continues. As the album progressed, it took me into this story, a journey that you kind of get captured in an album, if I could put it that way, because the story writing doesn't stop. And it could have just been an EP of 6 tracks, but there was more to come. And I couldn't put the pen down at that point. There were just too many important tracks that were presenting themselves. And it would have been, I think, either foolish or just not honest to myself to stop there and say that I'm kind of done. So yeah, the album follows tracks and themes of love, loss, social issues, wars, drugs, whatever that was going on. And 2 incidents, as I've said, one's from my dad and one's from my wife, and the rest are just my raw feelings. So yeah.
So, what would you like people emotionally to take from this album? You mentioned like loss, you mentioned drugs, you mentioned war.
I would like them to listen to it with an open and honest mind, in the way that it was created between 2 people, openly and honestly, not trying to suit a certain genre or anything, just trying to deliver a message, a particular sound. I think there are very deep melodies that work very nicely with the lyrics, and hopefully that captures some of the hearts and minds of listeners. But more than anything, I hope they can adapt and link up with some of the messaging and the music styles that are within the album. And I hope it takes them on a journey of dreaming, or it causes some effect in their life and thinking, that they can actually say, no, I'm with you there, Gaza. I get what you're saying here. And I never like trying to explain every single track, because it really should be open to interpretation. People should just take it on and go, what does this mean to me? Because that's how I listen to music. I go, what does this mean to me? And it either hits me in the head, the heart, or it's got a good beat. But for me, the long-standing ones are the ones that get inside your body and mind, and they last within you. So I'm hoping some of the songs do that with people.
Yeah, I like what you said. I always say when I write lyrics myself, it's open to artistic interpretation, because I don't like to say what's happening in the song, but I would like people to take what they feel from the
Mm.
song. So I love that. So tell me, which song on the album is your favorite, and it means the most to you?
I don't know if I can stop at one. I've got a lot of love for many moments in the various songs. I think to this point, "Slow Down" is the best performing song. At this point, if I look at it digitally, the Afterlife is the one that is going to, along with My New Skin, the full album. That is a very special song, and it almost Mark and I's perfection in a way. I believe it's just like we came to that ultimate maturity. So I've got to point to that one. So the Afterlife is definitely right up there. I think it's probably the closest that Mark and I have got to perfection in a sense, in my mind, in a track. And then Into the Light is a very subtle, slow song, but it was written for my father when he passed. So that it really holds a special place in my heart.
Touring, live music. Are you planning on touring this album? Are you planning on playing shows?
Well, Hardy, I'm in a position now where I've done the album, and like now, the interviews are starting to happen and all the rest. I did a pre-launch live show on Saturday, just past, for some close friends, family, where we played the album and probably had too much beer. But the without avoiding your question, the real trick now is to keep momentum moving into a live space. Now, all the people I want to work with and who've said they will work with me, with the likes of Mark, he'll be my guitarist. Hilton Brooker will take on keyboards, one of Mark's old mates. So he's working with a big band at the moment. I won't say too much there. I've asked Dale Schnettler if he'll help drum, and Dale's pretty cool. He's always looking for a gig. And then we're just going to come up with a bassist. But the problem is to bring these guys together to rehearse, because of their busy lives, leaves me, it's almost dead in the water to get everyone together at a moment and go, okay, we might be able to do it for one gig and rehearse for 2 weeks, but to keep going, these guys are just so good. They're playing week in, week out. So I'm in two minds. Do I start hunting down guys who are looking to play and who enjoy the Gaz vibe, and maybe chuck a few extra things in there? Or do I just say, okay, let's try the solo road for a bit, but I'm not too keen on that. I think the music lends itself to a full band setup. And we've done it once or twice live, and some of the songs of the album are just so good live that with a full band, I couldn't do a backtrack. I'd have to cut myself.
Now that's a difficult thing. I find myself in the same position currently. My band has been running now for about 2 years, and well, since 2022 November, so that is about 2 years. And we play and we tour and we go to Durban and we do all the things. But now the problem is now, people have lives, they have jobs, because there's not a lot of money in music, like we
No,
mentioned a few times before, and
no.
then everyone is always busy doing something. So I think touring is one of the most difficult points
Mm,
for, especially for musicians that have been in the industry for such a long time. We come from a different era where
mm,
10 years ago or 15 years ago, it was easier than it is today. Today, there's a lot of factors that play a role. There's,
mm,
I don't want to say too much about it, but there's a little bit of gatekeeping, and who you know is everything, and what you do. And like, so there's all of that. But I think you're definitely in with the right crowds,
yeah.
musician wise. So tell me about, you know, we're coming back to Mark, um,
Mm.
how has that opened doors for you in the music industry, working with such a well-known producer, coming from a well-known band, and so forth?
I think it's absolutely vital, and I wouldn't stop at Mark, Hardy. I just want to chip in and say there's 3 or 4 P's that go with this. One of them is your producer. Okay, the first ingredient that goes in the pot is the right producer, the person that you can get on the most with, the person that understands you, and that's definitely the first P. If you and for whatever you can afford, you try and get the best, is the best way I can put it. So there's that. Then there's product. If you ain't got a product to go with that production, then it's not going to be listened to by many DJs, podcasters, or public, and it's probably not going to go far. And then the next thing is people, and this industry we work in and try and provide content for is hyper-connected, and Mark is a hyper-connected person. And so is my point number 4, which is the P, and that's the promoter. If you're in the hands of a Devo or a Stazen or something like that, then the people, the product, the producer, and everything can come together as a product in its entirety. And that's how I think we should be looking at it. I didn't believe I had any chance of success whatsoever until I thought about those ingredients, and I'll throw honesty on top of that as well. Do your work as honestly as you can and hope to help. All right, that you put all of those ingredients together in the best package of peas and just chuck it out there with the right people. And I don't think you can go too far wrong. If there's definitely been a strategy of trying to get it overseas. Hardy, I've got to be honest, as you kind of alluded to, the local scene it's either got one eye closed, or it's being run by promoters without mentioning names, and I don't mean promoters that promote your music overseas. I'm talking about gatekeepers that say, these are the gigs that happen here, 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 and here are the artists that happen here and here. So as an unsigned artist, which I am and forever will be, by the way, it makes it extremely difficult. So you've got to put those foundations in place. You've got to put them in place and do, for me, it's one song at a time, quality over quantity, and just try and deliver something you believe in.
So you said something that is so true. Devo being obviously, and I've said this to him myself as well. Devo is a key ingredient to music being heard. So you can have the best song possible, best song, well written, well produced, excellent. You can put it out there, and you will have 5 listeners. But that is a key factor. Devo does a really good job, and he goes to the extreme. Then that's also why I, in my own music career, started reaching out to overseas things. Like this podcast is actually an American podcast, but I'm South African. I come from South Africa. Cool. Because it opens up the world to me and my band and all the people I support and so forth. But I think the day of the gatekeeper is over, and that is actually what I'm building to. Yes, there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's still a lot of things happening, but now with technology, Facebook, social media, and all the things, it is so much easier to break past the gatekeepers. So someone once told me, like, if there's a man standing in front of that fence, I will find a hole. And yes, that is the way to think. That is, in my personal opinion. So last little thing, social media. How do you feel about streaming? All your social media platforms, all the merchandise. Where do you have merchandise? Tell me about that.
No, not so much merch. Yes, I think it's about getting the music out on Insta and the TikToks and that, and then they will just find me under Gaz, capital Gaz, on Spotify and Apple, Deezer, or whatever their preference is. I do run a YouTube channel. I normally knock out at least a lyric video with each track I do that I do myself. Well, so that's where people can reach out, and I just want to say hallelujah, come this Friday. End of a very long road, and I'm absolutely pumped.
Yeah, looking forward to Friday. Good luck for the upcoming, hopefully, tours and touring the music and all that. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'd like to thank you and your listeners on Midnight Madness for giving me an opportunity to be heard from the other side of the world, down here in South Africa. I hope you enjoy the album, and yeah, reach out and show some love to this show and also to the music, and let us know what you think.
Awesome. Until next time, I've been Hardman.